All right, what's up, guys? VV back with another video. And in today's video, guys, we are finally on ST-20. That's right, we're on the yellow cards, the Charlotte Katakuri leader, the Big Mom Pirates theme deck, the yellow cards. So I have already done ST-15 through 19. I will link those down in the comment section below. And I'll tell you what, guys, this has been a pretty fun little journey we went on through all of these new starter decks. For those who are not aware of, wait, how do I get these starter decks? You know, where are you getting this from? The ST-15 through 20 starter decks come out in the middle of OP08. And they will be technically called, once they come out and once PRB01 comes out, they will consider it OP08.5 at that point. Now, let me put some things into perspective. OP08 comes out for us in the West in about 1 month. Not even 1 month away, OP08 comes out. And then the next month, the starter decks will come out as well, or about a month and a half after, something along those lines. Very close to the release of OP08. So it's time to talk about these now. You know what I mean? We need to see what's coming out, be ready for it, so that way any players who are thinking about changing decks, changing leaders, changing colors, whatever, you can have a good idea of what to expect from some of these new starter decks, and that might directly influence your decision, especially newer players, right? And speaking of that, this entire series that I've been doing over the past 5 or 6 days now, this will be the 6th day. It is more geared towards the newer players. However, you guys know I like to have a little bit of something for everybody, and I try to at least have something in here for the more veteran or advanced level players, so you can know what to expect from all these new cards coming out and some of these new leaders. But all right, let's go ahead and dive into it. I'm not sure if I did a breakdown or not. I think I already did one, right? Yeah, I already did the breakdown. We're gonna be going. It's gonna be the exact same format as the other videos, where we check out the leader, we check out some games on the sim, and then we check out the deck list and talk about improvements at the end. So you know what you're getting into. I will have everything time-stamped down in the general description. I will have all relevant links and deck lists in the comment section. All right, and as usual, guys, before we dive into this, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, please do not hesitate. Please do not be afraid to put them in the comment section below. I try to answer all questions as soon as possible, especially if they're serious questions. Okay, now let's get into this. We've got the leader here. Now, this leader did come out in OP03. This is Charlotte Katakuri. He is a 5,000 power, 5 life leader. Big Mom Pirates type, yellow, mono yellow leader. Dawn ×1 when attacking. This is the effect. Dawn ×1 when attacking. Look it up to 1 card from the top of your or your opponent's life cards. Okay? And place it at the top or bottom of the life cards. Then, this leader gains plus 1,000 power during this battle. That is actually way stronger than it sounds. That is very strong in a very subtle way. Number one, you're getting knowledge. You're getting information that is usually hidden. You're not allowed to see your life cards or your opponent's life cards, right? That is not allowed in the game. But a mechanic like this allows you to attack and to take a peek at like their top life card or yours. You get to choose one or the other. You don't get to do both. You get to choose one. So let's just use the example of your opponent. Let's say you look at their top life card and it's like let's just say it's a very weak card, and then you might determine, oh, okay, yeah, you can have that. Or you can look at it and go, wait a minute, that's a really powerful card. Let's put that on the bottom. I don't want to have to deal with that right now. You see how powerful that can be? Same idea with the cards in your life. If you look at the top card and you're like, ooh, I want to get this, you can leave it there. Or it might be something you want later in the game, like, okay, let's put this on the bottom of our life now. So it is a very powerful effect in a very subtle way. Okay. Next up is Charlotte Opera. This is just a vanilla character. It's a 4 cost, 6,000 power, 1k counter, Big Mom Pirates type vanilla character. That means it doesn't have a when attacking effect. It doesn't have an on-play effect or anything. Okay, just a solid body. Next up is Charlotte Galette. This is a 2 cost, 2,000 power, 1,000 counter blocker. This is a very standard stat line you can find across all different colors in this game. 2 cost, 2,000 power, 1,000 counter blocker. You can find that in every single color of the game. Very strong utility blocker, by the way. It is nice for just, like, oh, I only have 2 Dawn left for the turn to use up. Well, I'll just put down this blocker that might be able to protect me. Next up is Charlotte Smoothie. So this is a 4 cost, 5,000 power, 1,000 counter, Big Mom Pirates type character. It has an effect and a trigger. So the effect is whenever you attack with this character, you may add 1 card from the top or bottom of your life cards to your hand. Okay, that is dangerous, right? That's like a double-edged sword, but let's hang on. We'll talk about that in a second. Look at what it does. this character gains plus 2,000 power during this battle. So that is a double-edged sword. When you attack, if you choose to take a life card, you do lose a life, right? You don't get to put it back at the end of the turn. You lose a life. However, you're gaining plus 2,000 power for free. So, or, well, not for free, I guess, right? That's, you know, for the cost you paid, you're getting 2,000 power for that. And it has a trigger where you can trash a card from your hand to play this card if it's the top card of your life when you take damage. So it does have a lot of utility in that way, and it's Big Mom Pirates type, so it's searchable. This is just a very solid card, but get used to that trigger thing, guys. In the yellow color, trigger is a big effect. That is a major thing within the yellow color and gaining life. Like everything to do with life and triggering from life, that is a major theme in the color yellow. Okay, next up is Charlotte Pudding. We've got a 1 cost, 2,000 power, 1,000 counter, Big Mom Pirates top 4 searcher. This is a top 4 searcher, which is a little weird, right? But here's why. It can look up any Big Mom Pirates type card and any card, or I should say, or any card named Sanji. So, you know, that has to do with the anime, that has to do with the manga, that's like lore stuff there, don't worry too much about that. But just know, because it does have Big Mom Pirates searchable cards and another potential out, you know, like random other type of card that it doesn't matter what their type is, Sanji, it can only search up the top 4 cards. So it's a little bit weaker in the sense of like it doesn't have as big of a range as some of the top 5 searchers do. However, it's still about just as strong because it still looks at 4 cards and it can get any Big Mom Pirates type card or a card named Sanji. Okay, so really good stuff there. Strucin is a 1 cost, 2,000 counter. Oh, it's a 1 cost, 1,000 power, 2k counter. It does have a decent on play effect, but it's not incredible. Let me say that. The effect is on play, you may trash 1 card with a trigger from your hand. Remember what I said about triggers, guys. That's going to be a very common theme, these cards with triggers. Okay, but with this character, you can play him for 1 and trash a card with trigger from your hand, and then KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 1 or less. It's just a very solid 2k counter with decent utility. Ikkaku Sovereignty, this is a 2 cost event. Check this out. It's a 4 Emperors Big Mom Pirates type event. But the effect is very interesting. Counter, up to one of your leader or character cards gains plus 5,000 power during this battle. Now, that is much more than average. For those who are not aware, for those who might be newer players, or players that maybe they're not new, they just don't play with a lot of event cards. Typically speaking, a 2 cost event counter like this will only protect 4,000, but it might have another effect tacked onto it. This card doesn't have a special effect tacked onto it. It just has a straight up 5,000 power counter. Very useful. And then check out this trigger, guys. Trigger. You may trash 2 cards from your hand and then add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life cards. Gain life. Okay, so let's just say this is in your life. And you can remember, when you're using your leader effect, you can choose to look at your life instead of your opponent's. And if you see this card on top, like, oh, there's Ikkaku Sovereignty, you can then choose to put that on the bottom of your life. So now when your opponent tries to go for lethal at the end of the game, you can trash 2 cards from your hand, and then all of a sudden you just gained a life with Ikkaku Sovereignty for the trigger. Very powerful event. Another very powerful event is Thunderbolt. This is a 2 cost Big Mom Pirates 4 Emperors type event. Main, trash 1 card from the top of your life cards. So that means you would not draw the card to your hand from your life. You will trash the top card of your life into the trash. And then you can KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. That part is decent. Like, that's a solid utility play there, but it costs you 1 life. Here's where it's really strong. Look at the trigger, guys. Is my head in the way? I'm sorry, guys. My head was in the way of some of the font there. Let me just move it a little bit. There we go. Check out the trigger, guys. KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. It's like, wait, but that's the same thing, right? Yes, but you don't have to pay the effect now. You don't have to trash an additional life because you lost a life. That was your trigger, and now you can KO a 5 or less. The trigger is what makes this card extremely powerful, but it's still very good even without it. Okay, next up is Charlotte Daifuku. This is a 4 cost, 5,000 power, 1k counter, Big Mom Pirates type character card. But the effect is Dawn ×1 when attacking. You may add 1 card from the top or bottom of your life cards to your hand, and then add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life cards. So this card goes absolutely perfectly with Katakuri the leader. Excuse me. if you let's just say you attack with your leader first. Like, let's say you have this character on the board and your leader. You can attack and look at your top life card, and if you want to draw that card to your hand, you can then keep it there, and then on your next attack, use Charlotte Daifuku, attack in, and draw that card to your hand and replace it on top of your life. So you don't actually lose the life. You technically are drawing cards. Like, you're not, how do I say this? You're not cycling cards. You're literally drawing a card from your life and then replacing it. So you're sort of, it's like, how do I say this? You're cycling life cards, but you're drawing the, the extra. So this card is actually very powerful. Next up is Peckhams, however you say his name. This guy is a 3-cost, 5,000 power, 1K counter vanilla character. Nothing special about it, just a vanilla character. Big Mom Pirate searchable. All right, now for the new cards. Now even, you know, you know, every player is interested in the new cards, right? Even the old players, the new players, you name it. Charlotte Katakuri. This is a 5-cost, 6,000 power, 1K counter blocker. Big Mom Pirates type. I don't know why I took my glasses off. Activate main. Once per turn, you may turn one card from the top of your life cards face up, and then give up to one Rested Dawn card to your leader or one of your characters. Now, for those who are not aware, there is something in the game of One Piece. You know, we have life, right? A card that is face up in your life, it is still the exact same as it would normally be. It's just now everyone has knowledge of it. The only time that changes is in certain leaders. Certain leaders, like, for example, Black Yellow Luffy, Blue Yellow Ace. I'm not going to go into huge detail because I don't want to confuse anybody, and this video is not really for that. Those leaders have a stipulation where when a card is face up, it is treated in a different way in your life. However, in most decks, it doesn't matter if the card is face up. If it's a trigger, it will still trigger. It doesn't matter. So just giving you guys a heads up. I know newer players are like, wait a minute, why are you flipping a card face up in your life? What does that do? Number one, it does give us knowledge of the card. Okay. And then number two, in this case, it's going to allow us, per this character's effect, to give us up to one Rested Dawn card to our leader or character. He's a decent 5-cost, 6,000 power, 1K counter blocker, but I will say the activate main, because of what our leader already does, it felt a little lackluster when I was playing it. I'm not saying it's a bad card. I'm just saying when I was playing it, I didn't have a lot of... It didn't seem like there was a lot of benefit in me showing my opponent what my top life card was. But don't worry, we'll talk more about this card as we get into the games. It's still a very solid blocker, right? Next up is Charlotte Cracker. This is a 4-cost, 5,000 power, 1K counter. This is not the old school Charlotte Cracker. There is one from OP03. This is a new one from ST-20. This one has the effect, once per turn, if this character would be KO'd by an effect, you may trash one card from the top of your life instead. Anytime there is evasion or special protection for a card, it is always worth at least trying out and messing around with because it could be very good. And in this case, it also has a trigger. You may trash one card from your hand to play this card from your life. So this card has a lot of utility. Very cool looking art as well. Not that that matters, right? Not that that matters for the card. But this is a pretty solid card with a little bit of evasion, a little bit of protection. Next up, Charlotte Brûlée. This is a 3-cost, 3,000 power, 2K counter character with no effect, but it does have a trigger. The trigger is essentially Katakuri's leader attack swing, where you can trigger, look at up to one card from the top of your or your opponent's life cards, and then place that card at the top or bottom of their life cards. Then add this card to your hand. So it's basically the Katakuri leader effect, but as a trigger, and then you still get to keep the trigger. You still get to keep the 2K counter, which is, you know, again, it's good for information. It's good to know, like, okay, let's see what's on the top of my life, or let's see what's on the top of my opponent's life. Okay, very good stuff there. Then we have a new Charlotte Pudding card here. This is a 3-cost, 2,000 power, 1K counter. It is a on play. You may add one card from the top of your life cards to your hand, and then set up to one of your Big Mom Pirates type characters with a cost of 3 or less as active. Not a fan of this card. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just not a huge fan of this one. Trigger does allow you to rest up to, the trigger has rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. For the newer players, just so you know, if you were to use the trigger, you don't then get to add this card to your hand. That card then goes to the trash after its triggered effect, unless it specifies otherwise. Okay. Now, the last card, I believe this is the last card. Yep. The last card here, this is probably the best of all the new cards. Again, not to say the other new cards are bad, but this is probably the best one. It is a 6-cost, 7,000 power character with the on-play effect of you may trash one card from your hand, and then your opponent gets to make a decision. He gets to pick his poison, right? your opponent will either trash 2 cards from their hand. They do get to pick. It's not random. But they'll trash 2 cards from their hand, or they're going to trash 1 card from the top of their life. That is absolutely brutal. Right, guys? Now, later in the game, if your opponent has no life, they're not forced into choosing the first option. They can choose to trash 1 card from the top of their life, and it will fail. So, later in the game, this card does lose a little bit of value, but it is a 6-cost character. It's a 6-cost, 7K character. Charlotte Linlin, of course. I think I forgot to say the name. But, you know, this character is very powerful as a tempo play, playing it on curve. For newer players, what does it mean to play on curve? That means, okay, in the game of One Piece, you get 2 Dawn per turn. It's kind of like 2 mana in Magic the Gathering, right? You get 2 Dawn per turn. So, and the player who goes first gets 1 Dawn the first turn, and then from there on, he gets 2 every turn. So, in other words, if you go first, you're on an odd curve, right? You go 1 Dawn, 3, 5, 7, 9, and then you finish off with 10. If you go second, you go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You're on the even curve. Well, here's the nice thing about Katakuri. And you will see this in the games we play. This deck is very, what a lot of people would consider mid-range, where it just curves out. It just follows the curve as best as it can. And with the leader effect, you pretty much always want to go, okay, how do I say this? You want to go second, so that way, especially when we upgrade the deck list, we'll talk about that later in the video, because you want to get to 10 Dawn before your opponent. We'll talk about that later. Hold that thought. But even before then, going second is still preferable because you have an odd curve. It's like, well, wait a minute. If you have an odd curve, why wouldn't you want to go first? Because of the leader effect. If you go second, you still get to implement your odd curve, and you still get to attach 1 Dawn to your leader to swing for 7 every single turn. But the other flip side of that is, well, but what if we're stuck going first? No problem. We still have a very strong odd curve. Okay. Now let's get into some games. Again, if you guys have any questions, or if I was a little too clumsy with some of that and I wasn't clear, please ask in the comment section below, and I will answer as soon as I can. All right, now we can do some games on the sim. This is like my favorite part. This is a lot of people's favorite part where we get to go over these games. Yeah, my camera. There we go. Good enough. So the speed is on 2x. The volume is off, I think. Let me make sure. Yep, everything's good. All right, let's do this. First game up here. Oh, pause. Now, I don't think I mentioned this in the intro. But the first 2 games that I'm going to play are me playing, whoops, almost dropped my glasses, are me playing right out of the box, guys. There are no additional cards in here from other sets. These are only cards from the starter box. So that way you can get an idea of how this plays, you can know what to expect, and all that good stuff. You can get an idea of how the deck is supposed to play and supposed to function. And like I said already, it's supposed to curve out. Now, let's check out this game versus Red Blue Marco, which is also coming out in OP08. It looks like they're playing a 7 Warlords version of Red Blue Marco. And yes, that is a very strong version, because anything 7 Warlords of the Sea for blue right now is just very powerful inherently. Okay, so it's my turn. Let me make sure we're on 2x speed real quick, guys. I'm sorry. I know I checked like twice, but it seems like it's going really slow. All right, we're good. So I'm going to play out Strucin, and I'm going to trash a card with a trigger on it to KO that 1 or less. I want to slow my opponent down, and I want to annoy them a little bit. They're going to swing in for 5. I take it. I aggressively take that because I could have easily countered out. They play out a Sanji's pull-off. Okay, seems good. I'm going to swing in for 5 here. And I'm going to play out a Daifuku. So now if they can't remove Daifuku, which they might be able to, but if they can't remove Daifuku, I'm going to get to attack and draw a card from his effect from my life and replace that top card of my life. So right there they swing for 5. And then they swing for 6. I might counter out of this. I'm not sure. I don't remember. Nope, I take this, and it's the new Brûlé card. So check this out. If I use, there's no reason not to use the effect, right? Did I use the effect? Hang on 1 second. Let me hit play. There we go. There's no reason not to use the effect, right? Because it is free. The card goes right back to your hand after you use the trigger. Usually when you use a trigger, the card goes to the trash. However, Brûlé says otherwise. That's why Brûlé specifically says, then add this card to your hand still. Okay? So now I know what the top card of my life is, and my opponent does not know. Okay? My opponent does not know that I have a pudding coming. That was private information that only I know. Because remember, guys, you can't look at your life or your opponent's life unless a card says otherwise, or unless you're taking the damage from an attack. Okay, here we go. So now I know it's coming. That's relevant information. Well, now with Daifuku, how's about I just draw that card? Because that's a card I want anyway for some searching. Okay, so right here, I'm going to swing. I'm going to attack into his... so hang on. I do decide to do this. I wanted to establish the new 5-cost 6K blocker first. I'm fine with my opponent knowing what is coming because it's just a pudding. Like, that's not really that's not like a very powerful piece of information. It's just a searcher. So yeah. I'm going to swing 6 into 6, and let's see what they decide to do here. Just waiting for my opponent to choose if they want to protect him, and they do. And I'm going to swing 7 into him. And now I know my top card is a Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is a very powerful card to have on top, but remember, my opponent doesn't know that. I know it, but they do not. So let's see if my opponent chooses to do the correct thing here. You should always swing with your characters first, and let's see what he chooses to do here. Because, think about it like this, guys. If my opponent decides to attack first with his leader into my life, I'm talking about into my life, of course. If you're attacking into characters, it's a little bit different. But if you're attacking into my life here, if he attacks with his leader first, and I know there's a Thunderbolt on top, which I just revealed to myself, I'm going to take it on purpose just to KO his character. Okay, so my opponent still has 6 Dawn left to play with. Let's see what they decide to do here. They're going to swing for 7 into 5. That is very unfortunate because I do want this card to survive. And looking back, I think I maybe should have defended it. Like, just looking back, I think I should have defended it. But I wanted him to attack into my face here because I want to be able to use this Thunderbolt later. Maybe not this turn, but later. Okay, and I just top-decked the new 6-cost 7K Charlotte Linlin. Let me make sure everything's good over here, guys. Make sure the recording's going well. Yep, we're good. Okay, just making sure. All right, so I want to play out the new Linlin this turn. So I reveal my top card. I'm like, hey man, here it is. I do need the Dawn to be able to attack into here. He lets his character go. That works out best for me. I'm going to trash a card from hand. He chooses to trash a card from his life because he only has 5 cards in his hand. If he had trashed 2 cards from his hand, that really hurts my opponent. And now look at my board. My board is starting to go very wide, and I'm in a very good position. And if he attacks into my face, I can pop his Marco. Okay, let's see what he decides to do. Well, I'm absolutely going to take this now, right? Because if I take this, I can pop his Marco. And since he's at 2 or less life, he can bring the Marco back to life. But that's fine. He has to trash a card out of his hand to do that. And it comes into play rested. So now I can attack that all turn. Not give him any more cards to his hand. Okay, so right here, we're gonna do that. I think I'm going to play this out first and see if he wants to give me cards from hand or if he wants to give me another life, because that will determine where I attack. Okay, now, actually, I say that, but he does have 2,000 extra power on his leader from the 9-cost Newgates effect. I swing 7 into 5. Let's see if he wants to give me some cards, because, hey, I will also just take your cards too, right? Like, that's fine with me. All right, he gets KO'd. Let's see if he chooses to save it. He chooses to save it. Perfect. We're getting all these cards from his hand, guys. Okay, and then he finally lets it go. Okay, now I'm going to swing 7 at face and pass the turn back. I'm not too worried about, like, I guess technically what I could have done there is revealed my top life card and then added a Dawn card to Pudding and then add my final 2 Dawn to Pudding and attacked in that way. But I don't think that's super relevant in this situation. But it technically would have been a better play, I think. Okay, he plays out Rayleigh, which gives minus 3,000 power to a character, minus 2,000 power to a character, and KOs a 3,000 power or less character. So he pops my card there. Okay, it was very strange to me that he did not attack into my character. I'm very surprised he chose not to attack into my my Linlin, because that is a 5,000 power character right now from the Rayleigh debuff. But okay, let's see what he has. He only has 2 cards left in hand, so I'm going to swing for 7. Let's see what he gets. He takes it. All right, whoops, and then he gave up. He conceded, because at that point he only has 3 cards in his hand, and I can swing for 15,000, right? The biggest he could get would be 11,000, not even close. Okay, that was a fun first game. Next up, we have a game versus Doflamingo. Let me pause this for a second. The volume is off, the speed is on 2x, and now we're good to go. Now, Doflamingo is a very popular deck right now, guys. Doflamingo is doing just fine. All right, so they do get a pretty... we got a pretty good start, too. Let me say that right now. Pause. We got an excellent start. We're going to talk about an even better start in a minute when we upgrade the list in the next 3 games. But we actually got a pretty good start for where we got the Searcher, and then we have a 2-cost blocker, and then we're still going to swing for 7 with our leader effect and see what's going on with the life. Okay, another option would have been to just swing for 5 here and play out the Pecans, but I would rather play out the blocker here. Okay, here we go. I take that. They cheated out the 4-cost Crocodile there with their leader effect. Now I know I have a trigger character coming. You see that? It was a smoothie, so I'm going to leave that on top. And now I'm going to play out Daifuku. So right here, I do want to take one hit because I know what it is. So it's like, okay, let's go ahead and take this one. We'll trash a card from hand, and then we'll play out the smoothie for free. On my opponent's turn. That's why triggers are so powerful, guys. Triggers, if you're a new player, triggers are very powerful. I'll give him a 2K counter here. Now we are going to play out the the new 6-cost, 7,000 power Lin, and my opponent has to choose to either lose 2 cards or trash a life. They chose to trash a life, and it was a Jinbei because they had 5 cards in hand, 5 cards in their hand, guys. If they would have chosen to lose that, that would have been really bad, right? So right here, I'm going to swing 5 into 5. Let's see if he wants to give me anything. He might choose to use his blocker here. I agree with that. I think it's a great decision. I'm going to swing 5 into 5. I'm just taxing my opponent right now, guys. And I'm thinking about buffing. I was thinking about buffing that character. Now we're going to swing 6 into 6. I draw a card from my life and replace it, and they counter out of that attack. Okay. They Gravity Blade Raging Tiger, but they Gravity Blade... They did not Gravity Blade the correct target. But right here, I'm thinking about, like, okay, I think I should try to save this character. I really consider it. I blocked there, and let's see if he wants to swing for 6 into it. No problem. I'll give him a 1K to get out of it. Because, remember, guys, Daifuku will draw me a card just for attacking. So it's like I only had to pay 1 counter there. Okay, so here we go. And I get to attack into his character now, which is the best part. Okay, this guy is just losing. He is hemorrhaging life right now from these effects. Now I swing 6 into it. That basically told me that he has no counter power in hand if he's not going to save that character. And then I'm going to swing for 7. Or 5, excuse me, and then I'm going to play out my 2-cost blocker. And now I'm just in a really good position. Now he does wipe my board with the second Gravity Blade Raging Tiger, but I'm okay with that because he's not developing any bodies, right? So we're okay right now. Okay, first things first here. I'm really considering just like going for game. So I'm going to swing 7 first to see. Okay, and I know his next card now. Did you see his life card? Sorry, guys, I didn't pause in time. It was the 4-cost 6K blocker with no counter. So if this goes through, it's time to load up on pudding, right? Okay, so he does protect it. I'm going to swing 2 into 2 to get that card off the board. I'm going to play out a blocker. I'm going to play out a 4-cost 6K, and I'm basically saying now, like, okay, you have to have another Gravity Blade Raging Tiger, or it's just over, right? He did have it. Right here, he gets a Jinbei, gets out the blocker. That's mildly annoying, right? We do take it, but we had a Cracker as our last life, so I'm going to trash a card from hand, and I'll play this card out. And now we're pretty much good to go, right? We're going to swing for 7. Let's see what they give us. And I know what the last card is already. He takes it. So he took that one. So I'm like, okay, I think he's going to take this one as well. You know, or block, obviously. And then now I'll just load everything on pudding, and we'll go 9 at face, GG. He only had 1 2K counter left in hand and the dragon. So that was a fun one. That was a good game there. Now, those first 2 games we just saw, remember, guys, that was no enhancements to the deck. That was the starter deck right out of the box. And I'm not saying my opponent was the best player, okay? But at the same time, this deck was able to hold its own against the Doflamingo deck. Now let's check out the list with some improvements. This next game here is against Red Purple Kid. I know, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, that's not even a good example. Chill out, guys. Bear with me. But we got some better cards in the deck now as well. So let's see how this game goes. Okay, the volume is off, and I know I just turned the speed up. Let me see if it actually stuck. Yep, it did. Excuse me. Okay, I did not get the perfect start. I did not get a turn 1 pudding, but that's okay. Pause. Now, real quick. When it comes to Katakuri, remember what I was saying. I will talk about this more when we go over the deck list. But the thing about Katakuri is you're trying to curve out. So you want to play a 1-drop into a 3-drop, into a 5-drop, into a 7-drop, or something along those lines. And that makes the deck very powerful, and it allows you to kind of steamroll your opponent. Okay, right here, I still get a 3-drop and a 5-drop, but I don't get anything else. So I saw what his top card was, and I put it to the bottom because it was a Dawn ramp card, a card called Bon Corre. And let's see what they choose to do here. It is my opponent's turn. They're going to use the Black Maria to do some effects here. This is kind of cool. They're going to return Dawn back because they're going to lose that Dawn at the end of the turn anyway. And then they're going to play out a pudding, so they're actually still staying, like, you know, on pace with me with their Dawn. That's a very interesting interaction. Pause. For any of the old school players, or players, the veterans who might be watching, that is a very interesting interaction. Red Purple Kid can return a Dawn card with the leader effect. So if you play out Black Maria, attack first, and then play out a pudding, and then pass the turn, you'll go down Dawn cards and still get a Dawn card back from the pudding. So that's a very interesting interaction there. Very technical for the newer players, I apologize, but very important. Okay, so I'm going to play out this card called Gadatsu. This card I just played is a 5-cost, 6,000 power character that can pop a character on my opponent's side of the board equal to or less than the amount of life they have. So I can pop a 4 or less because my opponent has 4 life. He has 2 3-drop characters. Some people might be thinking like, oh, pop the Black Maria, pop the Black Maria. It's like, well, actually, he's going to be on 8 Dawn next turn anyway, or 7 Dawn, so I'm not really too focused on that. I don't really care about that. I would rather just keep hitting this. I'd rather hit the pudding in this situation. Okay, we're still going to swing for 5. And then we're going to swing for 5 more. And I'm going to play out the pudding because I finally drew that, and I can fix my hand a little bit. I grab a 2K counter. Those other cards just weren't as relevant. The 0-cost 3K would have been the best option, but I can't get that. That's not a Big Mom Pirates type card. We'll look at that card at the end. Okay, so my opponent uses their Black Maria here. They swing in with Eustace Kid, returning a Dawn back to smash. They did completely... Okay, pause. A lot of things just happened there. They demolished my my poor Paraspero, but I was able to draw a card from that, which is what I'm doing now. Or excuse me, yeah, I'm checking my trash right now, but I looked at my top cards, grabbed the card I wanted, then he played out a Trafalgar Law, and we checked this card out in the purple in the ST-18 guide. Be sure to check that one out if you have not already. And Trafalgar Law made me trash 2 cards from my hand. I'm like, all right, well, here we go. So now it is time to attack, right? It is time to attack now. I'm going to swing for 7. I'm going to swing for 7, and then I'm going to hit my opponent with the new 6-cost Linlin. That new 6-cost Linlin is pretty disgusting. So I swing for 7. Now, I know what their last card is, by the way. It's a Bon Cray Bentham, right? Because we saw what the card was. So now he has to make the decision. Does he want to trash 2 cards, which is what he just hit me with, right? Or does he want me to, or does he want to trash a life? He chose to trash 2 cards, which I think is smart. But at the same time, who knows? Maybe it wasn't the best decision. We'll see what happens. He plays out Rayleigh. He pops my pudding there, swings 7 into 4. He can have that. And now he's going to swing 5 into face. Well, I've got 4 life. I'm still going to counter out because you know what I want to do this turn? I want to play out Linlin. I'm going to swing 5 into 5. See if he gives me a card from his hand. I'll take it if he does. And now I'm playing out Tinlin. Okay, we will look at this card in a minute, guys. Excuse me. But the 10-cost character I just played is called Charlotte Linlin as well. There are characters in this game that have multiple different cards, so you do have to pay attention to their cost and their effects and their power and all that and their color. But with the 10-cost 12,000 power Charlotte Linlin, it has an on-play effect that says, I gain a life and you lose a life. And when I say you lose a life, you literally trash the card, right? So that was extremely powerful. It looks like I pushed the queen to the bottom, actually, instead of leaving it on top. I forgot about that. Okay, so we trashed that. They play out the 9-cost Linlin. See, there's another Charlotte Linlin. There's quite a few of the same characters in this game. They attack in, and unfortunately for them, I do get a smoothie. I almost notice what I had my hand over. I was about to trash the Thunderbolt in my hand, but I can win the game this turn, right? Even though he has a blocker, I can pretty much for sure win the game this turn by using that card, and then he just concedes. It was over, right? It was definitely over because I was going to be able to swing for 12 with my Charlotte Linlin, and then everything else on my other characters, just run him over. And another thing, this is just insult to injury. I had a Capone Gang Beige coming off the top of my life that locks down an attack for the turn, and I had a Onami that pops a 5 or less. So I was in a very good position that game to win, and my opponent saw that and conceded. Okay, and plus, like I said at the end there, it was just calculated lethal. There's no way to survive. Okay, volume is off. Speed is on 2x. We're good to go. Excuse me. So right here, I did at least get a 1, and perfect. Okay, so guys, I am going second, but check out my curve. What I was talking about earlier. Yeah, I know I've been talking about curves a lot, and I really want new players to understand this. It is the mid-range way to play the game. There are 3 main ways to play the game. Some would argue 4. There's a control. There's a way to play the game in a more controlling manner. Okay, and in this game, I would say black is the best control deck in the game currently because it has tons and tons of removal. So by control, they mean controlling the board by removing characters with effects, not even just attacking. Then there are aggro decks. You know, red is kind of the specialist at aggro because they have lots of rush characters. And then there are like the more mid-range decks. Yellow, especially Katakuri, there are different kinds of yellow decks. Excuse me. And let me say this too. Each color can run its own style, but yellow has a very strong mid-range deck in Katakuri. And it just curves out very nicely with its Dawn flow. Like with the way it's Dawn, you know, as you get more and more Dawn, it just curves out very nicely. And this is an example of that. Turn 1 pudding, and then it's going to be turn 2 Parasparrow, and then it's going to be turn 3 Gadatsu to pop a character. Very, very powerful. And you'll see that in this game. Okay, so I play out the pudding, so I get to search, you know, my top 4 cards. I was able to choose a card that I wanted from there. They go ahead and play out a Brook here, and it's going to pop my Charlotte Pudding. Not too worried about that. That was just a searcher. It's not really meant to be an attacker. They swing in. I'm going to counter out early for these easy ones. Then I'm going to swing for 7. Okay, now I know that. So that was a Gecko Moria, and I put that on the bottom of their life, and I play out my Parasparrow. I develop a Parasparrow. Now let's see what my opponent decides to do. This was a very interesting turn here, if I remember correctly. You have to be very careful when dealing with Dawn minus effects that are in the purple card pool. So they're going to swing for 6 here. I'm going to go ahead and take this. I'm going to look at their top life card, and I see it's a Charlotte Pudding. Not worried about it. I believe I keep it there. But watch this, guys. So he swung for 6. Now, King has the ability to return 2 Dawn cards and give -2 to a character for the turn. He does that to pop my Charlotte Parasparrow and swing for 5 at face, but I do the search because it has an on KO, and then I'm deciding if I want to take this or not. I decide I do not want to take this hit. Now, in this situation, I'm going to swing for 7. I know it is a Charlotte Pudding they're about to get to their hand. I see what card's on top. I want to keep that there. And then I'm still going to stick with my game plan of playing out Gadatsu and pop his character. Now it's my opponent's turn. I was able to get rid of his character, even though he got rid of mine. And look at this. He has 3 Dawn left because of how greedy that play was he did last turn. I'm fine with that because I'm still on tempo, right? I'm still going, you know, progressing up the Dawn here, where I can play my characters out as soon as I need to. I'm going to swing for 6 here. He gives me a 1K, 1K. That is really bad news for my opponent that he has no 2K counters, because now I'm swinging for 7. Then I'm going to play out a Charlotte Linlin, and he chooses to give me a life from the effect. Pause. We'll talk about this card in a minute as well. That 7 cost Charlotte Linlin. We've seen a 6 cost, a 7 cost, a 9 cost, and a 10 cost in this video for the same character, right? The 7 cost one is brutal, because it is just like the 6 cost one where your opponent has to make a decision. But you don't have to trash a card for this character's effect. Your opponent gets to decide, do they want to lose a life, as in trash it, not get it to hand? Do they want to trash the top card of their life, or do they want to give you a life from the top of your deck? That is a very brutal decision, and it's a 7 cost 8K as opposed to a 6 cost 7K. Okay, my opponent is in deep, deep trouble, right? They're in deep water right now. They're in a lot of trouble. Let's see what happens here. I do have a 6,000 power character and I have a 6,000 power character and an 8,000 power character on the board. We're just waiting on my opponent right now. He is deep in the tank. He's trying to make a decision, and he just surrenders, guys. Because of that play he made earlier, his Dawn was so low. Look at his hand. Technically speaking, what he could have done here, it wouldn't have mattered. But what he could have done here was played out the Sabo. The Sabo is a 5 cost blocker, and then he could have swung for 5. I probably would have taken it because it doesn't matter. But guess what my next turn was going to be? Play out Tenlin. He's going to lose the top card of his life, and then I'm going to swing for 5, 6, 8, and I don't think he can even survive that, right? Because the 5K attack he can counter out of, the 6K attack he can take, and the 8K attack he'll have to block. So I guess he would have survived, but at what cost? And now I have a 10 cost, 12,000 power character on the board. That is the power of a strong curve, and especially if your opponent is going to play gutsy like that, trying to like lose Dawn quickly to remove your characters. Okay, speed 2x, we got a game against Reiju. Okay, Reiju is a lot of people are talking about Reiju right now for obvious reasons. Pause. Red Purple Law is going to be banned very soon from the format, and that was a hard stop to Reiju. It really, really countered what Reiju was trying to do, and that deck's going to be gone soon. So Reiju just becomes a very solid deck. I don't know where it's going to. We'll have to see what happens in the meta. I'm not saying it's going to be like the best deck out there, but I don't think it's going to be a bad deck either. It will probably sit somewhere within A, either at the top of A or at the bottom of A, and have a good matchup against most decks. Okay, so we are going to start off with a Parasparrow here. Unfortunately, we went first and we did not draw Pudding until our second turn, and we don't want to play it now. Now we want to play out our 3-cost character. So we did miss that opportunity to go turn 1 Pudding, turn 2 Parasparrow because of our pull. You know, it's no one's fault. It happens, right? So I swing for 5. They counter out with Reiju. They're going to swing, and I play out the Parasparrow. They're going to swing for 6 this turn. They still have 3 Dawn active. I got a trigger there, but I'm not going to use on the Kaya. They play out their card. It's called Niji, and that bounced back the Parasparrow to my hand. That's unfortunate. I go ahead and play out the Charlotte Pudding here. And I can still swing 7 here and develop my Parasparrow again. Okay, coming in for 7. They choose to take it. It's a trigger they get to draw a card from. And now we're going to play out the Parasparrow again. Sometimes when, okay, for some people like, there's a lot, people have a lot of questions, right? And I try to answer them all to the best of my ability. In that situation right there, why wouldn't I just swing for 5 and then develop something like a Kikanojo in my hand, the 4-cost card in my hand, or the blocker? Well, number one, the blocker was actually the last card that I would have considered because it's a 1k counter in my hand, and that could help me out block out of attacks. The second best option, I think, would have been the Kikanojo, because it's a 4-cost, 6,000 power body. When it gets KO'd, I get to gain a life. However, I chose Parasparrow for one reason and one reason only. If I can swing for 7,000 every single turn with my leader, I'm probably going to snag 2 cards out of my opponent's hand or take a life every time, right? So I want to keep the pressure on, and I also want to get a card out of my hand that is a brick in my hand. The Parasparrow has no counter. Okay, next, let's see what my opponent does here. And another thing about 4-cost characters is that card Niji that he played out, the 5-cost card, he can still, he can bounce 4-cost or lower characters back to my hand. Okay, so he does get a Niji in his trash. He's going to swing for 6 here. I'm going to 2k counter out of this. I want to keep my life decently high against Reiju because they get very explosive at the end of the game. And I take the next hit, and it was a Kikanojo from life, guys. Remember what I said about triggers? We're going to look at that card Kikanojo in a minute. Very powerful card. I just got that card for free from my life because my opponent was at 3 or less life. Okay, well, in this situation, I actually want to just beat up their board. I'm not in any rush to win this game. I'm not, I like the board state. And if I attack into their life, number one, they can counter out, or they don't counter out and they gain life. Or excuse me, they gain cards from their life. So I swung for 6. Now I'm going to swing for 7. I'm just eating every card out of their hand. I saw what was in my life there. Very good. And now I'm going to play out another Kikanojo, the one that I had in my hand. I have a 2k counter in hand. I have 3 1ks and a 0-cost 3k. I have 3 life. I'm feeling pretty good right now. My board is starting to develop nicely, where my opponent's in quite a bit of trouble, right? They need to do something about this. Okay, so right here, they're going to swing 5 into 5. I do want to make them at least commit more to that attack so I can protect my life in the process. Because my thought is, okay, you see the card in their trash. New players might not have any idea. Okay, pause. They had a card called Ikiji in their trash, a 7-cost card. They can cheat that out for 4 Dawn. They have ways to do that in this deck. But instead, they choose to develop one more turn. So that immediately tells me they're going for a judge play, which, again, new players probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But just understand, the reason I countered out is because I want them to have to commit more into my board. And if they don't, then I'm just going to run them over. Okay. They only have one more 5k attack, so there's no way I'm going to let them have this. Now, I will only be on 9 Dawn next turn, unfortunately, but still. I can gobble up this board a little bit. We'll go 5 into 5. Let's see if he wants to give me more cards from his hand. I'm fine with that. Because this is free for me, right? I'm just turning a character sideways, and he's either going to give me this character or give me a card. So I swing 5 into 5. Let's see what he decides. I'm just looking through his trash right now, waiting for him to make a decision. They give me a 1k counter. Okay, sure. All right, so right here, I'm going to do a top 5 search. Or top 4 search, excuse me, and I get a Tinlin. Now, my opponent does know what I search up, okay? Whenever you do a search like that, you do reveal what it is. I'm going to swing 7 into 5. He's not protecting that. And now I'm basically telling my opponent, like, hey, I'm about to put you on a clock here, right? You're about to be on like a 1 or 2 turn clock. So I'm going to swing for 7. I need to swing for 7 more with this character here, with my leader. I end up swinging for 8. That's fine. He gives me 2 2k counters. And I'm playing out my blocker, and I'm saying your turn. I've got a 5k blocker now. He is going to be able to play out his judge. Yeah, so there's the card judge I was talking about. That allows him to play 3, I think it's up to 4 cards from his trash. And it's all of the little versions of the Germa 66 package. Okay. But let's see what he does with that. He can bounce back one of my Kikanojos with the Niji. He can attack into one of my other Kikanojos with the Ikiji. And then he has his leader attack as well. So he bounced back. Okay, so I was fine with that. I don't think that was the right call there. He bounced back my, what's his name? My Sanji. But that's my only character with a 1k counter. Remember what we were talking about earlier. I want these cards with the 1k counters back to my hand so I can use those to defend my board. Okay, let's see what they choose to do here. They get out the Reiju, of course. They're going to get their full board. That's how the deck works. Okay, they draw 2 cards from that, but they only have 1 Dawn left. They can only attack 3 times here. They can attack with Miss All Sunday, they can attack with their leader, and they can attack with their, what's his name, the Ikiji. They swing 7 into 5 here. I'm actually like, you know what? You're not getting this card. Swings in for 6. Let's see what he does, or let's see what I do here. Honestly, I'm thinking maybe I should have waited. But now that I've committed, I might double down. So I think I should have let it go, and then when he went to attack into my my Kikinojo, then I could count out for 1 there to save it. However, at this point, I think I should double down. Yeah, absolutely, because I've already committed. Right, I've already committed to this. Okay, so let's see what my opponent does here, or let's see what I do here to my opponent. I've got 3 relevant attacks, and I'm about to take a card from his life. Right, that's what's going through my mind right now. I'm trying to do a little bit of math in my head. I'm going to attack for 5 into 5. Let's see if he gives me a card from hand. Because that's like the same thing at going at his life, right? It's pretty much the same thing. Okay, he gives me a card. Let's see what I do here. 5 more into life. Okay, and then 5 into the Miss All Sunday, excuse me. So he trashes a card there. I gain a life, and I swing 6 into the 5, and now it's my opponent's turn. And he has to do something here to either win right now or clear out my board or something in between. So he attacks into my Kikinojo. That's just giving me a life. I will take that. So he attacks into my Parasparrow. I get the 7-cost Linlin. That's going to force something next turn as well. Okay, now here we go. So I think I should have trashed the 6-cost Linlin there, but now it doesn't matter. Unless he has a way to get rid of that smoothie, it's just over. And then for my last one, I got a beige. That made it where his 7-cost guy could not attack for the turn. Absolutely devastating. He does establish a blocker here. Very solid. So the game's not over yet. So like I said, what I should have done there was actually played out the other card. Okay, I'm going to play out excuse me, I should have gotten rid of the 6-cost Linlin instead of the 7. But actually, maybe not, because this will force 2 cards out of hand. Okay. So right here, I am going to just use it right away. It's like, all right, hey, you got it or you don't. You're going to lose your last life card, or you're going to trash 2 cards from your hand. This is a double-edged sword here, right? This is pick your poison. It's like, okay, well, if that's the case, wait a minute. I think I have lethal, right? That's what's going through my head. I'm going to swing for 7. So he has to give me a 2K, 1K here. But then watch what happens next. Okay, he had to block. That's not a good sign, right? That's not a... He's determining right now... So he has a 2K counter in hand. He's pretty much telling me that with this play. But it's like, dude, you're not even going to survive this turn, right? Because now I'm going to load up here. I'm going to attack, grab the last card of my life. He gets to 9, and that's game. So he was hoping that I had that there was some way for him to survive right there. But it's like, man, you know, you didn't. Like, there was no chance. And even if I couldn't win in the way that I just did, I could have attacked into his board if needed, if necessary. Okay, well, that was that, guys. That was the games on the sim. Let's go ahead and check out the deck list that I was using. Y'all give me just 1 second to get set up over here. And here we go. This is the version straight out of the starter box, right out of the starter deck, okay? ST-20, right? ST-20. I'm going to read through it, and then we'll talk about it. So, of course, the leader. Then we've got 4 Operas, 4 Galette, 4 Smoothie, 4 Pudding, 4 Streusen, 4 Daifuku, 4 Peckhams, 4 Katakuri, the new one. 4 Charlotte Cracker, the new one as well. There's an old version as well. 4 of the new Charlotte Brulee, 4 of the 6-cost Linlin, 2 of the 2-cost events, and then 4 Thunderbolts. This is a very strong deck right out of the box, guys. And here's the thing, though. Probably the easiest package to upgrade. I don't know, actually. I don't want to say that, because Film was very easy to upgrade. Doflamingo is very easy to upgrade, and so is Purple Luffy. It is what it is, right? They're just so simple when it comes to upgrades, in a good way, not in a bad way, where it's like, man, you know, it's kind of hard to imagine. The only 2 decks I think are like not great at upgrading. Well, I don't know. It's not that they're bad, but the red and black deck are not the easiest to upgrade, quote unquote, because a lot of cards in the black color pool right now are very expensive because of how powerful control is currently. And when it comes to red's not too bad because you'll just go more aggro. I think that'll probably be fine. But man, green, blue, purple, and yellow, very solid upgrades. Let me show you guys how it looks. Okay, here it is. I'm going to remove the leader so it all fits on 2 lines, nice and neat. Okay, it's that time of the video, guys, where the mustache starts going crazy. It's starting to tickle my nose. Okay, this card right here is what we saw at the end. I forgot to explain it. This is a 3-cost, 5,000 power character. Check out what he does, guys. Pause and read this if you do not know what this card does. Trigger, you can play it by trashing a card, and then it has an odd KO effect to do a top 3 search for Big Mom Pirates type. Now, it is not the same type of search. It's not the exact same search as Pudding, because remember, Pudding can also grab a card like Sanji. This was one of the other cards we were looking at in the video, right? You know, in the last game. It's a 4-cost 5K blocker. Now, like I said, Sanji can search. Excuse me, Sanji. Pudding can search this card up, but Sparrow cannot because he doesn't say Big Mom Pirates or Sanji. Okay. This is another card. It is not very expensive, at least not at the time of recording this. Who knows what happens in the future? But guys, this is like the boss character for yellow. Well, at least for Big Mom Pirates, because you can't run. This is a leader locked character because of how strong it is. It is a 10-cost 12K on play. If your leader has the Big Mom Pirates type, place up to 1 card from the top of your deck at the top of your life area, then trash up to 1 card from the top of your opponent's life area. So very, very powerful effect here. And it's on a 10-cost 12K body. It's like, yeah, that's really good. The rest is pretty straightforward. We looked at Strusen came in the starter deck, so did the Brûlé, this Katakuri, this Lin. Let's talk about this, about Beige real quick. Pause and read that trigger. One of the most powerful triggers in the game at just stopping an attack. It just stops an attack. And in the same way, so does Sanji, right? There's about 7 triggers in this deck that can just win you the game. Because if you can get a blocker as your last trigger, because guys, this is a trigger card. It's a 4-cost 5K 1K counter blocker, and then trigger, trash your card to play the card. If this comes out of life as your last life, it could win you the game very easily. And then also this card right here, pause and read this. This is not a Big Mom Pirates card, but it is a 0-cost 3K counter. It's a 0-cost, trash a card from your hand to get a 3K counter, but look at that trigger, guys. And remember what our leader does. We can look at our life cards, and if we see this card as our top life card, we can move it straight to the bottom and leave it there. And now we have an incredible last, life card. It's going to gain us a life, right? Very, very powerful. What else? Gadatsu, this was another card we looked at. We can pop based off of our opponent's life total. And then there are 3 other cards we gotta look at down here. Charlotte Linlin is probably the most expensive card in this entire set, and I think these are running anywhere from like $10 to $15 at the time of me recording this. I don't know off the top of my head. But this card is outstanding. You don't need it. You can just run this new Charlotte Linlin. It's not the same, but this card is outstanding to just play. It finishes your odd curve. Let me say it like that. So say we go second, which is what we want to do, right? Turn 1, we have Pudding. Turn 2, we have Sparrow. Turn 3, we have Gadatsu or the new Katakuri. And then turn 4, we have Linlin, the 7 Lin. And turn 5, 10 Lin, right? That's going second. And it's like, well, what do I do with the extra Dawn every turn since I did a 1, 3, 5, 7 curve? You just attach it to your leader and swing. Let me bring up Katakuri again. You just attach it to your leader and swing in that way. This is the original Katakuri art, guys. I know we've seen the... we started off by seeing the new art. The new art looks incredible, but this was the original one that came out in OP03. So as far as upgrades go, this is what it looks like, guys. Oh, let me talk about Kikanojo. This is another card that's just absolutely sensational, incredible in Katakuri. Because look at this. Trigger. Read the trigger first. So most triggers we saw, guys, you have to trash a card from your hand, right? Okay, I have to trash a card. I have to trash a card. Where's the other one? For this effect here and this one, trash a card, right? For Kikanojo, where'd she go? There she is. If your opponent has, if your opponent's life is at 3 or less, you get to just play this card. so it just comes out for free. It's a 4-cost 6,000 power card that comes out for free. And look at this on KO, guys. If your opponent's life is at 3 or less, place the top card of your deck to the top of your life. So literally gain 1 life. Okay, and then last but not least, we have Onami. This is another incredible card. 2 cost, 3,000 power, 1K counter. On play, you can give your leader or character banish, a leader or a character banish for the turn, and the trigger can KO a 5 or less. And it's a 1K counter, like I said, guys. Very, very incredible card. Trigger popping a 5 or less. On play, giving one of your guys banish, so that way your opponent doesn't get to draw a card from their life when you hit them next with it. Okay, one more card I do at least want to mention. Let me type Mom in here for Big Mom Pirates. It should search it up. Okay, here they are. There's one more card I want to mention in here that is just a really good Here it is, the other Cracker card. This card kind of replaces Charlotte Smoothie if you want it to. You don't have to. It's not like a requirement. Charlotte Smoothie is still very good, right? We saw what it did in that last game. It was able to pump me up to 9,000 power and get me past that last attack. Okay, but here, this is Charlotte Cracker. This card right here is extremely, extremely good, right? Like this card, it's just excellent. Pause it, read it, double attack. It comes from life. It comes into play the same way as Pudding does, but yeah, at the same time, it does. you know, this. How do I say it? It's always a matter of picking and choosing your poison, right? It's always a matter of picking and choosing your poison. With Charlotte Cracker, it's, you know, this card can give you double attack and plus 1,000 power if you have less life than your opponent, or Smoothie can give you plus 2,000 power for free by just taking your top life card. So it's like, this card is cheaper. Let me say that. So if budget is the sorry guys, I'm stuttering. If your budget is the final decision maker, then Charlotte Smoothie is your go-to. Like immediately, it's a no-brainer because Cracker is a little more expensive. It's not like a lot more expensive, by the way. It's just a little bit more expensive. And that's about it, guys. That's about it for this for ST-20. If you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, guys, please do not hesitate to put them in the comment section below. As always. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If I missed anything, please help me out in the comment section below as well. You know, just please be very nice. Please be respectful. Oh, one more. I have to at least mention this card. It is very expensive right now at the time of recording this. I think this is the most expensive rare in the game. But let me say this right now. This is a Big Mom Pirates searchable 2K counter that allows you to draw a card from the top of your life. This will combo perfectly with a card like Cracker if you need to go down one life to double attack your opponent and go about things that way. I just wanted to mention that real quick. But anyway, like I was saying, this is a great improvement as well. And there's a lot of good improvements in here, guys. If you want to just read through the list, hop on the sim, read through all the Big Mom Pirates cards, check out your favorite yellow cards, because there are also some other ones, right? Like, let me type in 8. Like for 8 cost cards, you have Katakuri. Okay, for 9 cost cards, you have Yamato. This is just a great 9 cost finisher. And then finally, there's also another card. I don't recommend this one, to be honest, for what we're doing, but this card is still a very powerful 10 cost yellow card, Ace. All right, I'm done. I'm done yapping. Done rambling. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Big shout out to everybody who supports this channel. Whether you're liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, viewing my videos, all of that helps me out. It all feeds the algorithm. I really appreciate you guys so much. Okay, and then last but not least, let's talk about the patrons. Or excuse me, I didn't even talk about the actual playmat. Thank you to everybody who supports me by buying the playmats. I still have about we got another name on there. Someone just, I think 2 people just got it recently, or well, recently as in like the last 2 or 3 weeks. But I still got about 40 of these left. For anyone who's interested, the price is at the top right for anyone in the United States. If it's international, you need to message me on Discord. But I think it ends up being about $55 to do an international shipping, just to give everybody a heads up, anyone who is interested. Okay, now we'll move over to the patrons page. And big shout out to all the patrons, everybody who supports my channel. Thank you guys so much. It really means a lot to me. Helping keep the dream alive, keeping this going. I really do appreciate you guys. All right, that's it. I'm done. All right, hope you guys enjoyed. Please do not forget to like and subscribe. And I will. Oh, one last thing I want to say is I will have all 6 of ST-15 through 20 made into a playlist. If you know any new players who are thinking about getting into the game and they're like, maybe I'll wait till OP08 comes out, be like, no problem. Let me hook you up. Check out these videos. These are 6 new starter decks coming out, 1 for each color, and you can kind of pick and choose what you want to do from there. You know what I mean? Because these were meant to be more for the newer players, but of course there's stuff in here for everybody as well, even the more veteran players, the advanced players. All right, now I'm done. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please do not forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, guys. Peace.